Good day all. Welcome to the next video in which we are going to have a look at the PMT function. The PMT function is the payment function which describes or which calculates the amount of money required to pay back a loan on a fixed period with a fixed interest rate. The PMT function requires, or it actually doesn't require 5 parameters. It requires 3 and has 2 optional parameters extra. The parameters are rate, and it is in this order. So when we do the PMT function, the first thing that we have to put in is the rate, which is the interest rate. The percentage calculated on a yearly basis. And the second parameter is the period, the time that we borrow the money for. The third parameter is the value that we borrow. And as mentioned, the last 2 optional parameters are future value, or FV, and the type. The type is when we pay back the money that we owe. At this point in time, I'm not going to mention that too much. I have included it in my calculations, but I've made them naught, and by default they are naught anyway. So if you don't put them in, they are by default naught. So let's have a look at the PMT function. The PMT function is always, like in Excel, starts with an equal. So equals tells Excel, here comes a function or a formula. And the function is called PMT, so it's equal PMT. We open the parameters, and then we put in all the parameters that we're going to put into this function. And as mentioned, the first 3 are required, the last 2 are optional, so I could leave them out. You don't have to put them in. Now, before I start showing what we've done, I have assumed, and let's at this point in time assume that it's 6%. So we're borrowing 5,000 Rand in this case over a period of 1 year at a rate of 6%. Now that is an annual rate, so I have to divide that value by 12 to get a monthly interest rate. So I could say is equal to the 6% that it costs me per year and divide that by 12. I then get 0.5%. If this were 7.5%, that would be my monthly interest rate. But let's leave this at 6% for the time being. The period that I'm borrowing this money for is 1 year. And the same as with the rate, I have to 1 year is actually 12 months, so I have to take that 1 year and multiply it by 12. So if I make this 2 years, I would borrow it over a period of 24 months. I'm leaving it at 1. The value that I'm borrowing is 5,000 units, Rand in my case, could be dollars, euros, wherever you are in the region that you live. The last 2, future value and type, I have left blank. So I am borrowing 5,000 over 12 months at an interest rate of 0.5% per month, which is the 6% yearly, which is 0.5% per month. I then put in the is equal to PMT with the different parameters. So the D3, the D4, and the D5. As mentioned before, I don't need the last 2, so I could actually leave that out and still get the same result. Please note that the result that I get is in a minus, is a negative number. That means that from the point of view of this calculation, the money goes out. You are paying it away. So it goes to the bank. For the bank, that would be a positive number because they are receiving it. Now, a lot of people don't like to see negative numbers, So there's different ways of making this a positive number. The first one and the easiest one is to make the whole function negative. Now you see that that has changed to a positive number. I personally don't like doing this, as I would like to see that the money is going out of my bank account. If you look at your statements, the money going out is in negative and the money coming in is in positive. So personally I like to keep it that way, but it is up to the user that puts in the formula to do what you like. You could also say that the D5, you could also make the D5 a negative number. Now the result is positive because the money is now going out and the result is positive. Again, it is up to the user, but I personally like to keep it a negative. There are some problems with that, and let me show you quickly what the problem is. If I calculate it on a yearly basis, I would take my 430 Rand per month and I multiply that by 12. I get 5,163 Rand 99, which means that I'm paying 163 Rand extra on top of the 5,000 that I borrow. So I can see that my payment is 163 Rand. Now, if I wanted to see what my interest is, and here comes the problem, if I take this value and I minus this value, I get a nonsensical, my interest is not 10,000 Rand, so that is incorrect, and that is because I'm using negative numbers. So in my formula, if I make this a positive, now I can say this minus this value, and I get my 163. The difference between this value and that value is now 163. I do that because I used minus. If I remember, I said I don't like that, so I can now take here, I can take this value and I can add this value, and I also get the interest is now 163 Rand going out. But as mentioned, the logic here is a little bit, especially 3, 4, 5 months down the line, when you come and add things, it might not be as simple to look at a later date why you are plussing rather than minusing this value, this value from this value. I'm adding because I'm taking the minus value and I'm adding the plus value to get to my interest. But that is, there are other functions, for example, I payment and P payment, to show the interest or the principal part of a loan. And I've done that. This is only about PMT, but I'm quickly going to show you in this little table. The money that we borrow is 430 Rand, which means that for the whole year, the money that we repay stays the same. If I add that all up, I get to my payment, my repayment of 5,163. But that is broken up into different parts of the repayment. So this is the repayment, and here in the first month, that is my payment, and my interest part is so much, and therefore I'm paying that off. So the actual amount of what I'm paying off is 405 Rand. The interest part of that is 25, and as you can see that the interest gets less and less and less, and at the total time I would have paid 163 Rand 99, which is the same as what I've done here. So there are different ways, either like this or like this. The problem comes up is that when I take, let's make the loan 15,000, and let's pay this back over a 5-year period, and you see that the amount borrowed has gone up, the period has gone up, the interest has stayed the same. So I pay an interest of 2,399 Rand on 15,000, and the interest part, now I can't, sorry, what I was going to show you, but I can't, again, I'm only doing PMT, but I quickly wanted to show you the I payment and P payment part of a loan. The problem is that this is only on 12 months. So now I have to increase the table to show 60 months, sorry. And if I did this over 2 years, it would be 24 months. I'd have to increase this to 24. Everything is possible, but I wanted to show the PMT function, and the PMT function is basically what I've shown you so far. So using the parameters, or using the variable parameters, I could now change this to a 20-year bond. I can borrow 150,000 or 300,000, whatever, 1, 2, 3. On a 300,000 Rand bond for 20 years, I would pay 2,149 Rand 29. You see that the payment, and by the way, I am paying 515,000 back, therefore 215,000 is interest. And you can start playing. I'm going to leave it at the original values, so I just wanted to show that you could use your parameters to start playing and seeing what the result would be. You could also make a little table. You could do this in a table and say, and make the variables. So say, what if the interest goes from 6%, or let's start at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So you can make a whole table of different percentages and over different years, and then you can see what the result is of a loan with different parameters. Later, in later videos, we will make a little table and show those options. This video was mainly there to show the PMT function, how it works with the parameters. I could put back the other parameters that I deleted. Nothing has changed, but I could now say at the end of the period I want to have a residual value of, let's say, 1,000 Rand. And please note that the value of the repayment goes up, because I'm not paying back the whole amount. And that is one option that I left out. The other one is the type. Do I pay this at the beginning or at the end? And again, the financial repercussions is, I am not an accountant, so I'm treading on thin ice here. But if I make this a 1, please note that the value goes up slightly. In fact, it comes down slightly, if I see that correctly, yes. So at the beginning of the period, opposed to the end of the period, you borrow the money a little bit longer every month. And that is, but again, the options are not required. So the first 3 are required, the last 2 are optional, and you can play with the numbers at your own discretion. You can put in, if you borrow something at a credit card, the interest rate on the credit card is very high. It's normally 21%, and you'll see that to borrow 5,000 Rand is actually will cost you a lot of money over 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 any period. So if I borrow that money over 2 years, again, the variability of this is enormous. So I can speak here for the next 5 hours and say nothing. The important stuff that I wanted to show you is that at a fixed interest rate over a period of time, 1 year, the repayment would be 430 Rand 33. This is all I wanted to show you about the PMT function. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.